The Quran is the only book that I've come across to date that's perfect.
Because when I picked up that Quran in jail, and everywhere it said, do not be friends with Christians or Jews.
2 men, 1 prison, 1 holy book. But today, Dubai witnessed a collision that the world couldn't ignore.
It's the more delight to be joined by Mr. Tommy Robinson, a face I wasn't expecting to see here today.
Don't interview him. He's a racist prick. What are you giving him airtime for? A racist prick, a little prick and on one around here.
What's racist got to do?
Fuck off.
What's racist got to do?
Come back to where you come from.
Yeah.
No.
Recently, Tommy Robinson visited a Muslim country, far from conflict, far from the fear he has spent years selling to the public. But this wasn't his first encounter with Islam. Long before Dubai, behind prison bars, he opened the Quran for the first time. And instead of seeking peace, he says he was only looking for what he calls 100 verses of war.
2010, 2011, I'm doing 22 weeks on solitary confinement in a British prison. Someone sent me in the Quran, and I challenge anyone to do this. I say this all the time. Open up the Quran, and everywhere it said, do not be friends with Christians or Jews, I just made a reference of the verse. And before I knew it, I had pages. And it was like a jigsaw puzzle just fell into place. I understood it. I thought, this is it. This is why there's a Muslim playground. This is why they're not allowed to. And when you start looking at this, and what we've done here is, because when I picked up that Quran in jail, you can't read it because it's done by verse size. So one thing Muhammad says one day is next to something he says 20 years later.
I want to interject.
Yeah, like Muslims sent me the book when I was in jail to try and convert me. And as I I challenge anyone this, I don't know how long you're here for, yeah? Take your camera, go to Luton and find any Muslim with a non-Muslim. You just won't. Now, as a society, as a country, that can't continue. Yeah, it would be all right if the Muslim community was 0.1% or 0.2%, and they had their little area, and they weren't causing problems, and they're peaceful, and they're minding their own business, and they just want to be left alone. But it's not. It's now 6%. They're doubling every 10 years. You've got all the jihad, all the rapes, all the problems, all the crime, all the hostility, all the heroin, all the things that are coming out of this community, and it's growing and growing and growing.
This is how a tongue becomes quick to accuse the Quran of being a book of violence, without truly reading it, without ever pausing to understand. Because if the Quran were truly a book of hatred, why does it speak so calmly about life, long before humanity even understood how life begins? The Quran does not shout, it explains. It speaks of human creation, formed stage by stage within the darkness of the womb, long before science knew the word embryo. Then we made the drop into a clinging form, and we made the clinging form into a lump, and we made the lump into bones. Quran chapter 23, verses 12 to 14. And it is not only humanity. The Quran also speaks of the seas, 2 bodies of water, fresh and salt, meeting, yet not mixing. Not myth, not poetry, but a reality, recognized by science centuries later. Between them is a barrier they do not cross. Quran chapter 55, verses 19 to 20. So the question is no longer, is the Quran a book of violence? The real question is, why is a book that explains life so gently constantly forced into the image of hatred? Perhaps the problem was never the book, but the heart that closed itself before ever reading. Because for some people, the Quran is not a topic for debate, it is an answer. And that is exactly what happened to a boxer named Tai Mitchell. Not in a podcast studio, not on a television stage, but behind prison bars, when his life collapsed and he began searching for meaning. The Quran he read did not make him angry. It did not fuel rage. It made him fall silent, and then certain. This is the moment when the Quran is not accused, not defended, but chosen.
But basically, it was fighting basically, and I ended up going to jail for 4 years. And right towards the end of my sentence, I was reading the Bible. I read a few things in there just out of like curiosity and boredom more than anything. And I read a book called A Brief Illustrated Guide to Understanding Islam. And I'm sure it's a popular book. A lot of people know about that book, and that book changed my life. I read it and I was like, because it was off my own back. I don't follow no one in it. Like, and if someone, more time when people try and force me into things, it makes me do the opposite.
Yeah, exactly.
I was just randomly reading. I had some stuff in the cell I was reading, and it baffled me. So I read it again. I read it like 3 times. I read that book 3 times in that one night. I just was thinking, nah, is this right? Is this real? Why did no one tell me this before? Like, it was like talking about the scientific miracles in the Qur'an, like the embryonic stages of a woman, and how the mountains and how the seas don't transgress, and this, that, and the other. And I'm thinking, nah. So I've gone to the library the next day, got more books. I'm reading, I'm researching, and then after that, I was like, I didn't know all these things. And after that, you can't deny that. You can be as arrogant as you want, or you can be as uneducated as you want. But when someone's showing you that, you can't disprove that. It's impossible. How can all these things be written in the Quran 1400 years ago from a man that couldn't read and write, and today only science is just proven right now? Now, I understand there were certain things in other scriptures where some of them was foreseen prophecies or whatever, but there's also a lot of scientific errors in there. And if it's from God, there's no errors. Do you know what I mean? So the Quran is the only book that I've come across to date that's perfect. And I try and keep it real with myself. Say if in time science developed and advanced more and more, and then could disprove anything in the Quran, I'd say, then it can't be from God. But to my knowledge, it's been perfect every time. And the only bits that haven't been proven is ambiguous, neither right, neither wrong. So say heaven, for example, science can't prove if the heaven. Do you know what I mean? But everything that it can prove, it just keeps proving it right and right and right. And I'm just saying, it's impossible to come from anybody but Allah.
I could no longer deny the truth of the Quran. For Tai Mitchell, that wasn't a slogan, it was a decision. And once truth is chosen, silence is no longer an option. So when he looked at Tommy Robinson at Misfits, it wasn't just a face he saw, it was memory, old footage, old words, a tongue that once spoke lightly about the Quran with contempt. And this is where emotion breaks free, not because of anger, but because faith chooses to speak.
This is Joe Pugh for IFL TV. We're out here in Dubai ahead of Andrew Tate vs Chase. The more delighted to be joined by Mr. Tommy Robinson, a face I wasn't expecting to see here today.
I know, everyone looks at me like I'm walking through the airport and that. Yeah, I've come here. I've got my children with me. They love Misfits, they always have, so I was given.
Why are you giving him airtime for?
They are interviewing me.
Why are you giving him airtime?
They are interviewing me.
Racist rat.
They are interviewing me.
Why are you giving him airtime for?
They are
Fuck him.
They are interviewing me.
He hates Muslims, but he's in a Muslim
They are
country.
interviewing me.
Where that one at?
They are
He's a
interviewing me.
fucking
Yes,
prick.
right.
Don't give him no airtime.
Mate, go on,
You hate
sir.
Muslims like us. Why are you here? Why are you in this country?
I'm
You
here,
hate
I'm
Muslims.
here under invite, actually.
You hate Muslims, so why are you in a Muslim
I'm here
country
under
for?
invite.
You're a little rat.
Yeah, good one.
Uneducated little rat.
You're uneducated. You're uneducated.
Prick. Get the fuck out of here. You don't want to around here.
Fuck off, you mug. Let me
You
finish
don't
my
want around
interview.
here.
I'll finish my interview.
Put this interview
We'll do it.
up.
I'll finish my interview.
He's a fucking idiot.
finish my interview.
No point on no interview. Don't give him no time. The racist rat bastard. He hates Muslims, but he's in a Muslim country. Where that one at? How the fuck does that work?
Do you know how many Muslims I know? That mates with.
I've seen you on the news with the fucking Quran saying that you're against this book. What against the Quran are you against? Yeah, out of context. Anyone can do that out of context. I can read the Bible out of context. And the Bible's far worse out of context than the Quran.
Go argue vices, go argue book around, go argue about
I do. So why don't you go argue with all the paedophiles in the church? Why don't you go argue? Yeah. So why's your free speech anything against Muslims?
I'm not talking about Muslims. I don't like terrorism. I don't like jihadists.
Neither do Muslims.
Stand up against them.
I do stand up against them. Yeah, I do. Why don't you stand up against the groomagans that are white? A racist,
I'm allowed
big
my
little
opinion.
prick and on one strand here.
What's racist got to do?
Fuck off.
What's racist got to do?
Come back to where you come from.
Not every confrontation is born from hatred. Some are born from clarity. Because the Quran does not ask to be defended with fists or shouted through anger. It asks only one thing: to be read with an honest heart. One man opened it searching for weapons and found only what he wanted to see. Another opened it when his life had nothing left and found an answer. So this was never really about to buy, never about misfits, not even about two men facing each other. It was about a book that remains unchanged, while hearts decide whether to approach it with fear or with humility. And in the end, the Quran does not chase anyone. It waits.